Thank you for tuning in to Roll Call. The movie you selected is Second Act.
Well, hey everyone, welcome to Roll Call, the show where two childless millennials gush over an actor's journey from their early years throughout their blockbuster hits.
Because if you don't know by now, we still miss Blockbuster.
Yes. And I wonder, at like the height of Blockbuster's existence, what Blockbuster corporate looked like at one point. Because in this movie that we're talking about today, we get some real cool shots of some like really fun, fancy New York exec offices and buildings and stuff. And I'm wondering, Bria, if we think if Blockbuster ever had like a big fun corporate party or a big fun corporate office or like a bangin' Christmas party.
I'm sure they did. And I wonder if celebrities went to.
Oh my God.
But I don't know why. As soon as you said Blockbuster corporate office, all I could think about was like, I wonder what their carpet looks like.
Like it's a really fun 90s roller rink carpet where it's like bright blue and yellow, like
Yes.
like that.
Yes. Is there like film reels on it? Is there a Blockbuster logo? Is there some popcorn? Like VHS tapes, DVDs? I gotta know. Like I gotta know.
I wonder they probably decorated their office with like their favorite, like not Funko Pops, but like like little like DVD or VHS like boxes, and I bet you when they were like promoting big movies and stuff, they would all get
cardboard standouts.
Yeah, some cardboard standouts. I'm sure they had like signed movie posters framed throughout the hallways, or just like famous movie posters like Scarface or whatever, like with the Godfather.
Every titeenage boy's college dorm decor.
Plus your like random ETs and like
Titanics.
Yes. Yeah. Oh my gosh, it would have been so fun to see Blockbuster corporate. My mind almost flashed for a second, like, what if they just wore like khakis and a blue shirt, like other store employees had
You
to.
know what? Going back to the office, I low-key was like, I kind of wish I had a uniform because I got used to just working in my pajamas. So, my outfit was set for, the week.
Mm-hmm.
And now having to get up and be like, I wore that already. And how do I look cute? How do I look like I'm trying? And, a uniform settles that. But yes, so what's up, everybody? I'm Bria. And I have two things that, I want to start this banging episode off with. First of all, welcome to our weekly bitch sesh. Social club. And Milo Ventimiglia, that is how you treat Jennifer Lopez in a fucking shower.
Oh, bitch! That's what I have for my opening line too.
I had to. That's like my first note. I had to.
No, me too. Actually, no. My first line was it was after like the plot had started to go, but I said, finally we get a shower scene that Jennifer Lopez can be justified for. Bummer that boyfriend kind of ended up being a douche, but she gets a good shower scene finally.
And you would think we're talking about some steamy 50 Shades of Grey type of shower
No,
scene.
it was the most innocent, like fun shower scene. She's getting ready in the morning. She's got a job interview. It's her birthday. Her boyfriend comes in with like a little breakfast sandwich, grilled cheese or something, and like puts a little candle in it. And then, yeah, they kind of like flirt a little. And she just like grabs him in there, and it was fun.
Yes. It's the little things at this point that we've come to appreciate, especially given how many times we're like, why? So thank you, and I'm pretty sure that might have been JLo's doing. She is a producer on this movie, so So if you don't know by now, in today's episode, we're going to be talking about none other than, as always, well, not for long actually, This is our second to last movie episode, but of course, we're talking about Jennifer Lopez in the 2018 romantic comedy Second Act. So, let's take a trip back to it's November 2018.
I thought it premiered in December.
I saw that too, but when I went to look at movies in December, it was nowhere to be found. It's
Really?
in November. Yes. So, man, you would think 2018, not that long ago, right, Simone? About 20 years ago, given 2020, no. What's that, 3-4 years ago? And,
yeah, about 3 years.
You know, some of the things I looked up, I immediately, obviously, they're still pretty fresh in my memory compared to stuff we've covered before. But, you know, there was so much, I feel like, that happened in 2018, and so much that I had to really pick and choose, because I was like, whew, man, you know, this could go on, and I'm sure we'll cover 2018 movies somebody else, but you know, I'm sure there's plenty to go around for many seasons to come, so I'm sure we'll talk about this at another time too. But Black Panther, I mean, that just, I could stop there really, because it just took over that year. Everybody was Wakandaing forever. I had a group at work of friends that I ate lunch with, and our group chat at the time was Wakanda. I have a shit ton of Black Panther pops. I mean, it was just, it stormed the theaters, the Marvel universe. R.I.P. Chadwick Boseman. But man, what an amazing movie. I'm gonna get this out of the way. A little sad news. Legendary singer Aretha Franklin passed away in 2018.
Oh, yeah.
So the world said its goodbyes, some of big tributes, and obviously there's movies coming out about her life and journey now. So Aretha Franklin, rest in peace, queen. In other music news, we have some hip-hop lady beef. Cardi B. First of all, Cardi B is everywhere 2018. Her album drops. Bodak Yellow was everywhere. I knew her from her humble beginnings as the kind of snaggatooth funny stripper wannabe rapper on Love and Hip Hop, which is a reality TV show on VH1. If you've never watched it, some of the early seasons are reality TV gold. But she became a household name, and people fell in love with her personality, and obviously she had some amazing songs come out that also helped propel her to popularity. But Nicki Minaj was the reigning hip-hop girl. So, of course, we must pit women against women. But, you know, also they said some shit to each other. But this all boils over at a Harper's Bazaar New York Fashion Week event. And this is when Cardi B throws the shoe at Nicki Minaj. And then the infamous photo of her walking out, like being escorted out. And she has like this huge knot on her head. And like she just looks like, she looks like she got her licks too, but she also looks triumphant, like like I did that shit. And woo, that's that image, I didn't even have to look at the picture, like it's seared in my head. So in other hip-hop news, we have like a viral moment here. Per always, Mr. Drake, Aubrey Graham, is back, and I mean, he's everywhere. When isn't he everywhere? But this year, he had people dancing outside of their cars to the song In My Feelings. Those are some of like the earliest TikTok videos I saw. And so that's also like one of the things I feel like that label TikTok as like this dance app where kids make videos to songs like this that go viral and stuff. But that song, oh my God, soundtrack of that year to me, like it was, especially this summer. But in other news, we have some breakups. Jennifer Aniston and Justin Theroux call it quits. You know, we always want Jen Ann to find love, especially after what happened with Brad. So that was heartbreaking. But I think Jennifer Aniston handles a breakup well, Channing Tatum and Jenna Dewan Tatum divorce.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
They have a
which
couple of kids together, right?
I think so. I know they had one. I don't know if they have more, but
Mm-hmm.
sad to say, without this breakup, we wouldn't have the weird, I don't want to say weird, but interesting pairing that is now him and Zoe Kravitz.
Oh, I
So,
didn't know they were together.
yes, they
Huh.
are dating, having some fun. She is living her himbo dreams to the fullest. Anyways, so we have those two breakups. Then we have an amazing marriage. One of the biggest, probably of the last, the last decade. The royal wedding of Harry and Meghan. I
Mm.
mean, it was amazing. I love watching a royal wedding. I liked watching Will and Kate's.
Mm-hmm.
I will say I do like Kate's dress better than Meghan's, but everything that has ensued post that wedding has just been like, oh my God.
Yeah, there's
So,
been drama.
yes. So we can mark that year as when it all began, kind of. And then we have some viral moments here. The possible reason, maybe, for Gen Z being so confident, yet a bit unhinged, the Tide Pod Challenge.
Oh, oh no. I
Yes,
forgot about that.
I haven't. That or the bath salts. It's just like, what?
Oh,
You clearly are bored. Go outside.
yeah. Except they're not allowed to go outside.
Well, right now,
They're
not in
No, I know, but I
2018.
think in general, like that's
Oh,
why
yeah.
we poke fun at Gen Z is because they're little bubble wrap babies. Parents have to.
But that's why they can make amazing commercials and transitions and movie like entertainment on TikTok.
Oh,
And we
that's
can't.
right.
So,
Oh, I know. I know. It comes with checks and balances, right? I mean,
yes,
there's
yes.
like trade-offs for all of that, but
Yeah.
um don't eat detergent. It's not, I know it looks like candy and you in your mind you think it's funny. It's not funny. It's not
I
funny.
think, this coming from a generation who probably, tried to eat some decorative soaps at grandma's once upon a time. We steered clear of Tide Pods. We were like, they're pretty, but no. So
They're pretty, but I'm not a dumbass.
also they're expensive. How dare you? Also viral moments, kind of like the black and blue or white and gold dress. There's a
Yes.
whole Yanny Laurel audio thing.
Oh, yeah. What was the debate on what it was like you heard Yanny or
Yanny or
Laurel?
Laurel, yes.
I think I heard Yanny.
I
But
don't
maybe that's because that's like my last name sounds similar to it, so I'm like conditioned.
I don't remember, but what I heard, I remember this thing, but I think it's funny though that in the article I read, they they said we all became united though in this debate because Charles Barkley said that it said donuts. So we all can agree together that it does not say donuts. And
Mm-hmm.
I thought
Mm-hmm.
that was funny. Makes me want a donut. A new, I guess, colloquialism in the world, big dick energy, was apparently
Oh,
in 2018. So
okay.
everybody was confidently strutting about with some BDE, women
Mm-hmm.
and men. So
Uh-huh.
I think this is probably a start of where a lot of phrases and stuff become not gender based for a lot of people anymore. Like, I
Mm-hmm.
know I see people all the time like being like, anybody's a bitch to me, or anybody's a bro. Doesn't That's like universal to people. So I think big dick energy is just the same. Big ovary energy doesn't hit quite the same, but you know, switch it out.
Okay.
And I saved the best for last. Beyonce performs at Coachella in 2018,
Oh.
also known
Mm-hmm.
as Beachella, which I did not attend because festivals are not my jam.
Yeah.
Word to Astro World. So I just big crowds. I like a nice view of performance, so I'm not standing all day just to be able to see Beyonce. Love you, but I waited for the Netflix special, and boy, does she make me wish I went. But
That
yes,
Netflix special was really great. I mean, of course, it was going to be an amazing production, but I remember live streaming Coachella or like finding some like little places on YouTube that would like be showing it because me and Leah wanted to watch it. But the Netflix production of it was fantastic as well.
yes. I definitely have some Beachella merch, even though I
Hmm.
didn't go.
That's the one that looks like varsity. It's like homecoming, right?
It looks
That's
like, yeah, like Greek, but amazing moment and a beautiful display of the HBCU band and college kind of experience, also sorority experience, by the way she meshed all that together. So
Mhm.
I love it. All right, so we both got confused, but this movie came out in November. So,
Yes.
movies of November 2018, we have Creed 2 with my boy Michael B. Jordan.
Yep. Uh-huh.
Ralph Breaks the Internet, the sequel to Wreck-It Ralph. The movie The Favorite with
Rachel
Olivia Colman.
Weisz.
Huh?
Rachel Weisz.
No, you say that every time, or I'm having some weird ass deja vu. Yes, Rachel Weisz, Olivia Colman, Emma Stone, The Favorite. Um, Oscar winner Green Book comes out.
Mhm. Mhm.
Fantastic Beasts 2, The Crimes of Grindelwald comes out. Widows, starring our girl Viola Davis and a bunch of other women.
Mhm.
Very female centric cast. The Grinch, the animated reboot, came out. The Christmas Chronicles, and I threw this one in for. Oh, I threw these in for you.
Oh,
The
thanks.
Clover Hitch Killer, Krampus, and the Amityville Murders. And there's a
Okay.
few other scary movies that came out too as well. But so this is what second act was competing with, which is pretty stiff competition. But so these are the movies second act was competing against. Simone, how well did second act do at the box office?
Well, second act had a budget of $16 million. It was actually only shot between October and December of 2017. So it really only spanned like a short period of time, like only, I guess, when like apples to oranges, it's like about 2 months in length, like all of October. No, they started filming like October 23rd and then like stopped mid-December. Anyways, it's a short period of filming time. And they also shot everything on location in New York. So that made, I guess, things transportation wise, setting up wise, fairly easy. And yes, this budget was 16 million. Opening weekend is clocked at 6.5 million. And then in total gross in US and Canada has been 40 million. And then with a total gross worldwide of $72.3 million.
Oh, that is
Wow.
impressive.
Yeah, I was pretty impressed with how well this movie did.
Yeah, I'm not surprised though at the filming time
Mm-hmm.
because Jennifer Lopez stays booked and busy, and I
Mm-hmm.
believe, she had her Vegas residency probably around here, or
Mm-hmm.
at least was getting ready for it, filming Shades of Blue, stuff
Mm-hmm.
like that. So, does not surprise me that she's like, "We gonna do this movie in 2 months."
We're gonna do it quick. Yeah.
Yes. But impressive again, kind of like The Boy Next Door. Another New Eurekan production
Mm-hmm.
and something that she followed through with on a small budget and turned out a pretty big profit.
Mm-hmm. Yes, definitely. And I wonder, the we'll go into the cast in a little bit once we talk about what House of Little Raj has to say about this movie.
The
But
House of
I
Lil Raj.
House of Little
Rajay.
Raj, Lil Raj dog, as I accidentally typed out because autocorrect changed Raj to dog, and I was like, oh, little dog, that's cute. Um, Before we talk about cast, before we do a quick synopsis of the movie, let's see of what some of the film critics say, because as Bria mentioned earlier, that this show has now kind of become a little bit of a bitch sesh and a little open air session to talk about how we really feel about movies, and I look forward to today's discussion. But for the House of Little Raj, the writer for this review is named Mel Minnow, and this person gives second act 2 stars. Even the boundless charms of Jennifer Lopez cannot overcome a mess of a script in second act, a mishmash that has much of an identity crisis as its name switching, past hiding, resume inflating main character. Perhaps there's some clue in the credits. This is kind of a diss about Jennifer Lopez as a producer, but perhaps there's a clue in the credits where we learn that Lopez is the producer as well as a star, as is so often the case. Here, that means the movie's more about what would be fun for Lopez to do rather than what would be fun for the audience to watch. Nell kind of attributes that this movie overall follows a basic Cinderella plot line of a person it kind of falls into disparity or into a bit of a slump and gets some kind of a big makeover, not necessarily a beautification makeover, but just some kind of life-altering makeover to get them out of the hole that they're in. And then that makeover kind of gives them their happy ending. So loosely based off of some kind of a Cinderella plot. Jennifer Lopez's character fuddles her way along predictable twists and turns. And this writer also says, or just mentions more, I mean, it's not that they're really tearing down Jennifer Lopez's performance in the movie. It's just more picking apart, like, this movie could have been something to be worthwhile to watch, but just with the strange script, some funny lines backed up by Leah Remini, and some of the other smaller characters add some charm to it. But the most interesting thing that that Nell Minnow writes is that the reason why she really didn't like this movie is that she thought it was anti-education, that it like portrayed this message to audience that you don't need to go to college to like have a great career and a great job, which she didn't like. And I think that goes against some of the movies that had come out at that time, not around that time, but sometime before, like Monsters U, I'm thinking off the top of my head, from Pixar, kind of had that, like, you don't have to graduate from this wonderful college in order to like make yourself or make like self-start in the working world. And Nell brings up the film's point of view is uncomfortably anti-educated people, if not anti-education entirely. While two young characters are urged to get college degrees, the movie portrays street smarts and instinct as more authentic and more valuable than the kind of dumb team building exercises a person with an MBA would think worthwhile. School does have value. A teacher grading the script would have sent it back with corrections and insisted on another draft.
Well, our resident teacher, I would love to hear what you think.
This movie is interesting to me in that it's not Blood and Wine, it's not The Backup Plan, but it's not like we just finished, like we're about to publish What to Expect When You're Expecting. So I re-listened to that episode this morning, and we had a lot of fun talking about it. And that was a movie that like actually pleasantly really surprised me, and I gave it kind of a high rating at 3.5 stars. And I would actually give second act 3 stars. I think it deserves more than 2. But that being said, there's elements about this person's critique that I do kind of agree with, and there are some things that like played a little too hard on my suspension of disbelief, which we'll bring back later when we talk more about the plot. So I would give this 3 stars.
Oh my God. So this is going to be an episode where we politely disagree, I think.
Okay.
I would give this 3.5 stars. I'm trying to think of movies that I ranked higher, and I just don't think it's like in that realm of things.
Mhm.
But
Mhm.
I think I really enjoyed this movie. Like, it pleasantly surprised me. I kind of feel like it's obvious what you expect from a movie like this, but
Yeah.
at the same time, it had a little more heart than I thought it would.
Mhm.
It could have very easily have been like a backup plan type movie where it's just
Mhm.
like squeezing the life out of a plot to, make something that it isn't.
Mhm.
And I didn't get that from this, and I felt a little inspired, and I think that warrant 3.5 stars. So yes, will be very interesting to see how we differ in opinion.
Well, I
Uh,
mean, 3 and 3.5, it's not too big of a like a drastic thing. Like if I said like, oh, I would give this 1 star and then you're going 3.5, like that's pretty polarizing. But I'm
yeah,
definitely like, I anticipate we'll probably disagree on some stuff.
Yeah, and I do, I don't know if we want to talk about this later, but her feeling of this being anti-education, I think people who don't necessarily have, degrees and things like that, it's not always by choice. It's
Mhm.
also opportunity and resources. And
Mhm.
I think that it's kind of oddly kind of like our conversation with what to expect when expecting. We're childless millennials,
Mhm.
as we
Mhm.
always say. And I think there's this dichotomy between childless people and people who have kids or parents,
Mhm.
and where they think that we think we're better than them, and we think they think they're better than us. And I think that's the same with education. Sometimes people
Yeah.
who don't have degrees and didn't get to go to college and stuff like that think that people who went to college think that automatically makes them better than them in some
Yeah.
aspects, and vice versa. Whereas like someone who's street smart, or might have just figured out some shit and taught themselves some things, or learned via the best ways or the resources they had, and was able to do it
Yeah.
a lot. Sometimes educated people can be like, well, why did I waste 4 years of my life and this person is so
Right. No, yeah, you're absolutely right. I thought I thought that that was like a really interesting point. I didn't agree with this person who wrote that, but I just was like, really, that's what you're picking apart. Like the
yeah.
fact that this movie would like hint that that being street smart's gonna like get you higher up in life. And it's like sometimes it just boils down to the life you live and the experience you had. Like just because you have a great title on a piece of paper, you graduated summa cum laude from whatever place you wanted to graduate or you ended up graduating from, like doesn't mean that you're ready to conquer the world and make some like really good decisions for a company. Or sometimes it just is based on like what your life experience is and your ability to relate to human beings. And yeah, I thought if anything this movie touched up on like corporate greed and like corporate America, which I was like, yeah, thanks for highlighting that. Corporate sucks.
Yeah. That, and also too, I think it's no wonder Jennifer Lopez did this project either. And also the name Second Act. I feel like at this point we're seeing a second act of Jennifer Lopez's as
Oh,
well, of
100%.
her taking her career and doing these incredible things that most people wouldn't expect of a woman over 40, from I would say about The Boy Next Door till now current stuff, where even now seeing her right now, she's promoting the Marry Me album, and seeing her have
Mhm.
a song for a movie that's doing really well at 52 is, I shouldn't be amazed by that, but it's kind of amazing to me. There's
Mhm.
lots of stars and, celebrities who have sat it down at 50 in some ways, and have been like, oh, I'm being picky, or, and J-Lo is just going. She's like the Energizer Bunny. I don't know how she
Yeah.
does it, but yeah. So I think that part of this movie, having a second act in your life where like
Yeah.
matured, you're a little sure of yourself. Maybe you're questioning, some choices in your life when you were younger, but maybe you have, like, of course, that feeling of like, fuck it, like, I only got one life. I'm gonna start doing shit and breaking some of the rules that I thought I had to follow that didn't get me anywhere. So, anyways, let's talk about the cast so we can eventually rip into some aspects of this movie. This cast I thought was pretty good. I was very surprised by Vanessa Hudgens. I was like, oh shit, that's Vanessa Hudgens. But obviously the selling point here is Leah Remini and Jennifer Lopez, because they're real
life BFFs.
Yes.
I love it.
And that chemistry translates very well on screen. I also want to give a shout out to the pretty solid diversity of this cast, especially with like the mom group they had, and they had 2 women who were plus size women who were funny and who were just as central as, not as central, but, kind of adjacent with Leah Remini's character, and they weren't there for like comedic relief or anything like that. They were just as kind of humanized as JLo's character Maya and, Leah's character Joan. And then, you have some other notable funny people like Alan Einsberg and Annalie Ashford and
Charlene Yee.
Yes, she was hilarious.
I like her a lot.
Yes.
If you haven't seen Charlene Yee, she's in like Knocked Up, 40-Year-Old, or This Is 40. She's in that like Judd Apatow realm. She's done The Disaster Artist with James Franco. Like, I feel like she's in that like friend group spectrum in Hollywood, but she just plays like just this awkward little like kind of like stoner girl, like kinky stoner girl. I feel like
I got like anime girl vibes from her.
Totally. That's it. Anime girl.
Oh, also, obviously, Milo Ventimiglia. Ventimiglia? I don't know.
Ventimiglia, I think.
I don't think it's that.
There's a G in there.
Unless I think it's silent. Like. Anyways, Milo plays Jennifer Lopez's love interest, which I have to point out again. Boss moves. JLo picked him because she loves This Is Us. And I still think it's amazing that, again, at this point in her career, that she is picking her co-stars. I mean, she picked what's-his-face in Angel Eyes and stuff like that, but I still think that's awesome because I feel like that's rare. I don't ever really hear that often. But anyways.
Yeah.
Shout out to his hot ass.
And they had chemistry. I am like disappointed with where their storyline kind of goes, but I thought that he's like one of those guys that's like middle of the road attractive, not necessarily some of her like other co-stars, male co-stars that we've talked about that have been a little bit steamy and fun for her, fun to watch. But overall, I felt like they had good chemistry, and I still think he's a attractive man.
Yeah, this is my kind of dude. Like, I know the boy next door is like steamy and hot and stuff, and he's a very attractive actor. Obviously, Matthew McConaughey is pretty attractive to some people. Who else? George Clooney, previous sexy man alive, Ben Affleck. But Milo, I had to look up. I was like, hold the phone. What has he been in? And like, why does his name sound familiar? But I don't really remember him in anything. And he dated Hayden Panettiere, and that's why. And I was like,
was he in Heroes?
Yes.
Okay, I think I remember seeing that. Okay,
and they had a pretty large age gap actually. When they were dating. But I also was looking at pictures of him, and I was just like, oh, okay, maybe I got a little Milo fever going here. So I'm very impressed by his talents. And then I thought, what did you think of Vanessa Hudgens as Zoe?
I mean, Vanessa Hudgens, kind of much similar to the kids of Harry Potter, will kind of have that like High School Musical thing following her. But that's just
Yeah.
me. I see her and I'm like, I just think of High School Musical. Same thing for Zac Efron. Same thing for Ashley Tisdale, although she did other things before
Yeah.
High School Musical. Anyways, but I thought I liked Vanessa Hudgens. She played a good, like, spoiled rich girl. But I think the story picks up more when the plot twist, or one of the plot twists of the movie is revealed. And the acting for me, I think towards the end kind of dropped off a little bit, got a little too hallmarky for me. But yeah, overall, I really liked her with Jennifer Lopez. I thought they were a good team, like equal match, level play, like level field, whatever you want to say, in terms of like acting choices, if that makes sense.
What about Leah Remini?
I liked Leah Remini a lot. I never watched all the episodes of King of
Yes.
Queens.
Yes.
And that's Kevin James, yeah. But I did watch that Breaking Scientology video, baby, and that's what got me on real team Leah. And also just the fact that like Jennifer and Leah are very good, if not close BFFs in real life. I think that chemistry was very obvious and apparent, especially in the scenes where they're like kind of joking around and like just and being casual with each other. I appreciated that. I liked Leah Remini. There were some other like random characters. There was a character named Rob who worked at the corporate
Franklin and Clark.
thank you. Who was kind of a business competitor or like competitor employee against Jennifer Lopez. Rob's character was a dick. Freddie Stroma did a good job playing a dick. He has been in other things where he's been in a similar dick-like fashion. I mean, there's just lots of like memorable people that you've seen before where you do kind of the Leo point where you're like, oh, I've seen you before.
Yeah.
But I for sure the biggest ones are Jennifer Lopez, Vanessa Hudgens, Leah Remini, and then the other people afterwards are just more people are like, I've seen you before.
Yeah, like Larry
That's cool.
Miller, who I remember from The Nutty Professor as Sherman's boss. Only one thing about Vanessa Hudgens, I felt like she has this smiling expression that I feel like was just constant throughout the movie.
Like she has resting smile face?
Kind of, but it's like a resting bitch face that's trying to fool you and be nice, you know? Like, you're not really that nice.
I'm trying to do the face.
but like I do think that Leah Remini definitely, this wasn't a stretch for her either, acting wise. So
no, and I don't think anyone's character was a real stretch. I think that they were pretty safe and easy characters to play and kind of get yourself into the headspace of. Maybe what took me aback with Vanessa Hudgens is that she's my age, but she looks young still, like kind of like Selena Gomez, where she just has a very like supple face still. And I mean, granted, this movie was 2017 2018 and stuff, like, so it was a few years ago, but not much to like have really aged a human. But I like see her and I don't have the believability that if someone at that age, she would have been like 26 27 playing a job as like a high up in
she's a VP. I was like, what?
A VP of sales and of marketing sales for like of skincare line. I mean, we know that it's because she's a little daddy's girl, and so her dad is like Frank of Frank and Clark, or one of the two, or maybe he's Clark. It doesn't matter, but
he's Clark.
That's right, because I'm looking down and I see that his name is Anderson Clark. That like he gives the position to her. They have a bit of a family background story of a deceased mother. She was going to go off to art school.
Should we just go ahead and get into the summary?
Let's just do it. Why not? Let's go into it. But this this really short review or synopsis comes from Common Sense Media, and that's where like parents can review something beforehand, and it talks about like anything that can be potentially difficult to like talk to your kids about. In second act, Jennifer Lopez plays Maya, a 43-year-old woman who's unsatisfied with her life and dead-end job at a discount store. When Maya makes a birthday wish for a better job, a friend creates a fake persona, resume, and Facebook profile for Maya, which lands her a high-powered position. But lying on her resume isn't the only secret Maya is hiding. When the CEO's daughter, Vanessa Hudgens, challenges Maya to a corporate competition, the stakes for Maya become sky high, and Maya has to prove her worth before her fraud is discovered.
Also, the twist is that Maya had a child very young, and that child is Vanessa Hudgens.
That's right. And I texted Bria like during watching that movie. I watched this movie last night, and before it was revealed, so it was that twist was or at least it was hinted like a little about 10-ish minutes into the movie. Maya is dating guy named Trey, played by Milo, and they are, you know, doing well in their relationship. Said that they've been together for like 3, 4, 5 years, something like that, and that supposedly he was getting ready to propose, and Jennifer or Maya got kind of like in her head because she knows that he wants a family and she's just not really there yet, and her friend keeps on saying like, you can't beat yourself up over what happened, and we don't really know what happened just yet. And it wasn't until after their breakup that it was revealed that Maya had a daughter at the age of like 17 and had given her daughter up for adoption. That kind of just like went past behind me and was like, oh, okay, all right, that kind of adds to her kind of complicated elements and features to her character, whatever. And then about halfway through the movie, Vanessa Hudgens' character Zoe invites Maya over to her apartment that Dear Daddy gave her, which is this, she's like, oh yeah, this apartment's so small, it still has all my stuff, and it's this like gorgeous like penthouse apartment in Manhattan. And Maya's like looking around, she's like, oh wow, like your mom was blonde, and she looks over at Vanessa Hudgens, she goes, oh yeah, I was adopted. And I wrote down, it has its own line. If Vanessa Hudgens is J-Lo's daughter, I am going to fucking lose it.
What did I write? Oh, I wrote, OMG, I knew she was her daughter.
So after that was revealed, and then she like finally confronts, they're like in her childhood bedroom there, she's like going through some stuff. She's looking for like research that she had done based off of this like project that they're competing on, which is to find like or create a truly organic skincare line for Frank and Clark. But she like hands Maya her little baby blanket, and then she has this triggered memory of like a note that she left her before adoption. And then that's when I texted Bria and I was like, have you seen that? Did you watch this movie? And this is where you lose me personally. This is where it got too Hallmarky for me, and you take the comedy out of it and you try and smush too much of this like sentimental crap in there that I would have rather have it be it, because some genres call this movie a romantic comedy.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't say this is a rom-com. This is not Made in Manhattan. If she didn't have a or like Monster-in-Law, or even What to Expect, I guess, but if she didn't have an adopted daughter as like part of her character background, and then she like ends her relationship once she gets this corporate job, and then like meets someone at this corporate job, and then she has to like lie about who she is and where she came from and stuff, and they kind of fall in love with each other.
Mm-hmm.
And it is similar to Made in Manhattan, where you get someone who's like old money, comes from a rich family background, is kind of like a little pretty boy, and then she like learns him the being a street smart and like talks about like the importance of taking care of your people and your customers and something like that. To follow just one plot line rather than have it be this like mixed jumble of like, I'm lying, I have this deadline of this project, I have an adopted daughter, I just found out, oh, now my friends are really mad at me because even though they made me get this job, all of a sudden I don't have time for them anymore and they're mad
Very
at
Devil Wears
me.
Prada.
Very Devil Wears Prada. And then, oh, then the boyfriend comes back and it's like, you want a family, you are my family. It's that's where you kind of lose me as an audience viewer. But that's also, take it with a grain of salt, because my brain doesn't cope well with these kinds of storylines. I'd rather have a movie like The Cell where you get a masochistic little daddy that's kidnapping young girls and Jennifer Lopez is trying to find them. I'd much rather watch that.
I mean, I love This Cell. That's a sleeper hit in my opinion. I get what you're saying. I definitely do. I do think that the adoption storyline was probably a little bit like too much dip on the chip, like the chip cracked a little bit. And I get
Good
it.
analogy. Yeah.
But I mean, there's really no but. I mean, you could scrap it completely and I'd be fine with that. Like it's not something I'm gonna fight to keep in this movie. I did think it was a good twist though. Like obviously you were shocked, I was shocked, but I just think where it winds up taking the movie, it's not warranted that it have that kind of twist, you know. I think the competition between them was good enough tension, and for them to kind of, again, like Devil Wears Prada, you have Anne Hathaway, who's this green, nerdy, very educated girl, and she's entering this fashion world, and you have someone like Emily, who's very like hardened by, you know, the job she's in, and also Miranda, and they learn from each other. Anne learns how important this thing she thought was kind of stupid and superficial is, and how much she learned from her internship. And then you have, you know, I don't know really that Miranda learned a lot, but you have a soft moment where she writes this amazing recommendation for her and she wants her to replace Emily and all these things. And Emily also kind of softens, you know, at the end where she's like, you know, you're gonna have big shoes to fill. And so I feel like second act could have had that kind of moment instead of this like they're mother and daughter, so then, you know, their relationship isn't so like this bitch trying to take my job and who does she think she is type of thing.
Yeah, I didn't like that they pitted them against each other. And I mean, of course, that's just like a dude being a dick. That's just this like old fart CEO man being like, you know, it would be hilarious if I put my new lead of research and sales against my daughter. Like, I think, and I'm not going to do anything and I'm going to make all of the profit from it. Like, I just was like, why was that necessary? I just didn't like that they were pit against each other.
It wasn't really his fault because it was their idea. Really Vanessa Hudgens' idea and her issue, because she was the person behind the skincare line. So she's like, oh, our skincare line sucks? Okay, bitch. Let's see what you got. And so I don't really have a problem with them going against each other, but I didn't really like that off bat, like that they had a problem with each other. Like that's very stereotypical, you know? Like it's very Cadet Kelly. Like...
Oh. That's a really good point. You're right. Because instead she could have just taken like some really good like constructive criticism, be like, oh, holy shit, wow, you're right, you kind of like you saw through my bullshit and you saw that my skincare line was not 100% organic, and be like, all right, then you have 3 months to make me something, you know, to prove otherwise, and because Maya is someone in her mid-40s joining a fairly young like corporate team. Like her assistants are younger than her, and you know, obviously she doesn't have like the business experience, she has the people experience, but she doesn't have the like scientific background to know of all of the ingredients that go into a product like that, and she has to kind of like figure that out on her own, to feel like she has more to prove because she's more seasoned of a human being, because when she quits her like job at the local grocery store, and the guy's like, good luck getting a new job at someone your age, and I was just like, bitch, you fucking
Right.
bitch. And but she turned around and she just goes, watch me, and like walks out. Like she felt in that moment that she had a lot more to prove, because you know, it is harder when you quit your job in like the midst of your career at like your kind of midlife point. You have
Mm-hmm.
maybe 20, 30 more years before retirement, and like it can be scary. It can be kind of scary. So I would have liked that plot a little bit more if it like wasn't them competing, but maybe like Vanessa Hudgens being like, all right, you got a skincare line that you think is better. You got 3 months to like prove yourself. I don't know.
In a weird way, again, I think it could have gone very Devil Wears Prada. It's a fish out of water thing. Like Jennifer Lopez is plopped into this world that she really didn't belong in, because she didn't have, well, not belong in, but that she wasn't necessarily ready for, because she didn't have the experience and she didn't
Yeah.
really apply for this job. But, you know, she makes the best of it. She learns a lot along the way and proves that she actually does belong there. She has the knowledge and wherewithal to figure this thing out with the help of some very intelligent people who already work there and, you know, help her along the way. People who also were kind of thrown out because of evil power seekers within the structure of the company. So even if, like you said, Vanessa Hudgens' character is like, okay, you have 3 months, do this, and there's still some aspects of her trying to sabotage her, like, which is what what's his face's character kind of does. He's like trying to
Rob.
dig, yeah, he's trying to dig into her background and be like, oh, there's something off with her. Which
Mm-hmm.
to me, I thought, first of all, who has this much time at a job like that to be like, I'm gonna look into Carol's credentials, because she can't really work Excel like she said she could. Like, I mean,
She can't drive a boat. That's suspicious, because it all started, they do this like team building exercise, because on Maya's fake resume that Leah Remini's son of the movie Dilly, I think his name was,
yeah.
he was going off to Stanford. He was this like kind of tech, computer hacky, nerdy kind of genius.
Mm-hmm.
And so has like made this fake resume and Facebook page for Maya, and it has pictures of her climbing Kilimanjaro, has pictures of her meeting Barack and Michelle Obama, which is a real picture.
Really?
Uh-huh. It's a real picture. It was of like a Met Gala or some like American
I
Music
don't know
Hall
why I'm surprised
concert.
about that. Of course, J-Lo does. Barack and Michelle. I mean, she
And
fucking sang at the inauguration for Biden.
oh,
Okay, yes.
oh yeah. Oh no, it wasn't then. Obviously, of the that inauguration was after. But yeah, so that was a real picture. And on this like extensive resume, it says like these different schools, grad schools, and like extracurriculars that she did. And one of them was rowing. One of them was that she speaks Mandarin. And so in like the first team building exercise, he's like, oh, let's like do like a competitive rowboat on like for like both of the teams. And Jenna or Maya is trying to kind of mimic what Vanessa Hudgens is saying, but she's like, "Oh, pull forth, pull pork, you mean?" And then like
Yeah.
they end up crashing into each other, and the boss, Anderson Clark, was like, "That was awesome. You're a wild, crazy girl," and like you know chugs a beer or whatever. And then that British guy Rob is like, that's suspicious. I'm gonna look her up. And it's like, just sip your Cosmo, man, and like,
Right?
don't be a sorry you got wet in a water sport activity.
Big sourpuss.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that part of the movie, I definitely think could change. I guess we're jumping ahead a little to like what we would change in this movie. But the things that I liked about this movie, one, I love Jennifer Lopez when she is able to show her comedy chops a bit.
Yeah.
When she quits her job, you know, she walks out and she's like feeling herself. There's a nice little slow-mo action, and then she
flings her tag behind her.
Yeah, she turns to go through like a closed register, but the cord is up, so she flips over it. And so those moments, I'm like, oh my God, see, J-Lo's great at comedy. And then just her rapport with Leah, again, they're real friends. And sometimes that doesn't always translate on screen, you know, real relationships, but this one did really well. And so, like, again, the scene where, you know, Leah's psyching her up and like, who's the champ? They do that in real life, except they don't slap each other, but the slapping was improv and, you know, pretty genuine. And seeing their interviews for this movie, you know, just really showcases their friendships. And you can see Leah brings out this like goofy side of J-Lo that you can see a little bit underneath the really nice, polished, glowy, pretty, you know, girl in her. But it really, really comes out, I feel like, when they're in company together, that kind of like annoying friend that you're like, stop, like I'm trying to work, I'm trying to be serious, and they bring out that like, you know, prankster maybe type of goofball side of you. I thought there was an interview too where a lot of the questions are always about Jennifer Lopez, which I thought was interesting. But Vanessa Hudgens talks about it. Kind of made me feel old, even though I'm younger than her. But where she talks about like she grew up on J-Lo rom-coms, and you know how awesome it would be to be in one with her. And I was like, oh damn, like I can only imagine Jennifer hearing that and kind of being like, damn.
And I thought that they played a convincing mother and daughter duo. That's what I was kind of hinting at earlier before we had said what the main twist was. And when I look at the two of them together, I could see like it's a convincing cast-wise. And I liked their relationship on screen together, especially once they had found out, and like that's what kind of brings Zoe and Maya closer together. Zoe wants a relationship, she wants to find out more about her. They start going on walks, they go out to dinners, and you know, it's like a friendly competition now, not so much like a really like mean sabotage competition between the two of them. Like they'll bring each other coffees and stuff at work. And Jennifer Lopez's team ends up winning the competition. They find this two special ingredients for their cream that's going to make it
organic, and they choose to go all in one so that it's cost efficient.
Yes, that's right. And so when Vanessa loses, or when Zoe loses, it's not this like, oh, like kind of like, I'm butthurt, now I'm just gonna go back to art school. Like she was just like, congrats, and now we want to like hire you full-time, like head of, yeah, go ahead.
I will say though, okay, I know that we said like the mom-daughter adoptedness of it all, like, I could deal without it. But without that, do you think that they would, like, the end of the competition and all that would end like it did? Because I feel like that's where that softness came from.
Yeah, you're right. She clearly had a soft side. I think either way, even if the mother-daughter duo wasn't part of the plot line, she still probably would have been like upset to find out that the whole time she had been lying about who she was. Like when she drops the bomb at the end, when she's like pitching the cream to like the board of execs in that presentation. That's why I thought that maybe that storyline of like that leaning more on the rom-com side would have worked better. Like had her competitor been a man,
someone she's kind
of interested in, and then he like, you know, the night before the presentation or whatever, he's just like, I just want to let you know it doesn't matter who wins, like I learned something that's more important than cream. Love.
Oh my God, it's
I
how to
love
lose a guy in 10 days.
Yeah, it's how to lose a guy in 10 days. And then she's like, oh shit, like I've caught the feels. And then she like says who she really is on stage. And then she's like, but Mark, I love you, and you've taught me
Not
something.
Mark.
I don't know. You know what I mean? So like,
Yeah.
I thought that storyline would have been better.
You're just struggle bussing today, aren't you?
I thought that storyline would have worked a little bit better. But that's what we're to say.
agree. I agree.
But you're right, because of the like adopted daughter bomb drop of what the main kind of conflict I think of this movie was, is how they kind of got that softness, and she was like, I want you to stay, it's gonna like, I want you in my life, like this is really important to me. And so now Maya's like, well, fuck, like
Yeah.
I don't want to disappoint her. Like she thinks now that I am this like amazing, well-learned, well-traveled person, but really I'm not. Like I lived in the Queens and I like have a GED and I've worked at a grocery store for the past 16 years or whatever.
Yeah. I wrote that that's such a shitty spot to be in, because also at that point, like her friends, like Leah Remini's character Joan is kind of giving her a hard time about
Mhm.
like, don't, I know that, being this person that we kind of made you to be has gotten you where you kind of want to be in this job and gotten you this relationship with your daughter. But, the person you were before was kind of cool too. So
Mhm.
don't forget that person, which is kind of like, again, Andy in Devil Wears Prada, where her friends are, giving her shit about how she's adapted to her job and kind of drank the Kool-Aid. But it's also like, you put her in that position.
That's the thing. That's what drove me. I hate like I like The Devil Wears Prada. It's a huge iconic movie. That boyfriend is like on my shit list of ultimate douche canoes, because it's like, motherfucker, you can't just support your girlfriend who's like really clearly thriving in what she's doing. Like she's changing, no doubt, but like you can't accept the fact that she has like a career now.
Yeah.
Like shame on you. And then I didn't feel it that hard with this movie, but like when Maya and Joan kind of get together for a walk and it's like edging close towards the holiday time, and it's like a bit of a scene that reminds me of Aladdin when Genie's like, you got to tell her the truth, man, like lying about it's only going to make it worse. She has a good point. She's like, you can't expect like now that she's in your life again that you're gonna be able to maintain this farce, that you're
Yeah.
not this person who you had on your resume. And it's just, but it's still like a little infuriating. It's like, you put her in this position, like you were the one who encouraged her to do this and to like start over and reinvent herself. And that's why I thought
And helped her
maybe
in many ways keep it
in
up.
many
The
ways,
Mandarin,
yes, the
them
Mandarin,
stopping by the lunch to be like,
yes.
oh, we're her Wharton, and we were in the Peace Corps together. And it's like,
Yes, yeah. That kind of really bothered me a little bit. Now, I thought perhaps, like, if a love interest was never part of the story, and instead it kind of looks like Leah Remini was a single mom. Like, we didn't really see her husband anywhere, right? But we know that she has two kids with a pretty significant age gap. One's going into college, one's like pretty young, elementary school.
that kid was a good comedic relief too. He was funny.
Yeah. Although I think the overuse of like kids swearing in movies is like an easy cop out for comedies, but
Yeah.
it was still funny. It was still funny. But so I thought, okay, maybe if there's like no love interest at all, but instead Maya lived with Joan in like a, multi-story house in Queens, and
Mhm.
she kind of like both helped, like they were both single women living together, relying on each other, not just for income and companionship and friendship, but like childcare and all that stuff. Now,
Mhm.
that would be one thing if she was like a constant companion, lived at their house, got this job, moved into this like beautiful corporate owned apartment with like a fully stocked fridge and all these credit cards. Hashtag what a dream that would be. And then for Joan to be like, I really miss you, because she had like lost that companionship. She lost a roommate, she lost childcare, whatever it would be. Then that would feel a little bit more understandable.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, yeah, that that's a that's an area of suspension of disbelief where like I could suspend it for a little bit, but then I was like, what an ass thing to do. Because again, like you said, you don't also want to disappoint this kid who you finally found and found your each other, and are getting to know each other, and she has these high ideals of you now, and so you're in a pretty crummy spot. But going back to like Nate and Devil Wears Prada, that's where I feel like Trey is kind of useless a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
because he does kind of what Nate does, where she's finally having this success and this career opportunity, and then he's like, "Well, I want a family, and it's looks like you don't want that because you're focused on doing all this career stuff." And I was just like, "Bro, why does it have to be that, your girl gets a job, and of course she's trying to start her career, and now you want to throw the kids card on the table, like, oh, this is
Yeah.
my heart out, like, apparently this isn't what you want. You've been with her for how long, and you guys haven't had this conversation?"
Yes. Yes, dude. I wrote down the same thing. And it's funny because like I said, we both rated this movie on the higher end of average. Like I didn't hate this movie. It wasn't the worst thing that I saw, but it's just, these like small little details that I kind of wish were just a little different. But that's one thing that I totally agree with you there, that like, congrats on your new job. I'm leaving.
Yeah.
And then the fact that they were apart for so long, she would periodically check in on him, or like, be stalking his Insta and seeing like what he was up to.
Which I haven't really seen in a movie.
There was a lot of product placement in here, but I think part of that has to do with like the corporation piece of it.
Yeah. But I also think that might be J-Lo and her like budgeting ways of, because even her music videos, remember, we were like, there's a
Oh,
lot
yeah.
of weird
There are a lot of weird
I'm
plot
use this
privates.
EOS lip balm.
Yes, you're so right. But yeah, Trey bothered me in that way, and to the point where I was like, so what was the reason? What was the reason of that relationship? Is it for story development? How would this movie be different if the breakup didn't happen and like Trey still supported her and they like got to live in this fun little apartment together while he still coached something,
Baseball. Yeah.
baseball.
Something.
And then like he could help her in her little like corporate scheme and corporate shenanigans,
Yeah.
and like hell, get the baseball kids to go do some research on like your product placement, and then he can like kind of help her with these heists, and he plays more of like a doting, supportive boyfriend that but is like, hey, you should tell the truth about, like, you should talk to, like, maybe he knew about adoption or
Yeah.
about Zoe, and once she told him, he's like, oh, you should like definitely tell the truth, like the jig is up, you owe it to yourself and to her to like tell the truth. I don't know, but what really bothered me was that it was at the very end, he barges in at the end, they're having this like friends dinner because she had rid herself of the secret. Maya, during the presentation, dropped the skincare line. She like wowed the crowd, and then she was like, and I got to tell you something else. Like, I don't have a college degree, I have a GED. I'm like not who you think I am, whatever. And because of like the nature of this business meeting, it's like live streamed everywhere, so people can just like, I don't know, watch this happen on live TV. And so you'll see like the grocery store mom crew like watching it on one of the TVs in the grocery store, kind of like Costco, where they have all
Yeah.
those TVs lined up and they're kind of watching it. And then you'll see Trey sitting down on his phone, like, watching her do this speech. On. Yeah, and then so afterwards they build themselves up again. Within a year's time, they start their own company, and it's the idea that she had pitched to the like executive that came to their like grocery store chain about online department shopping.
She created Instacart.
Yes, she created Instacart. And so they're having this lovely friends dinner. Dilly is home from college. He like dropped out and then he went back and was like helping them also run the company. And then all of a sudden, Trey just opens the door and walks in, and it's like very clear that no one was expecting him there. And then they have this conversation, and then they take each other back, and the first thing he asks is, so you want to start a family? And it's like, dude,
I
give
do
it
like
some
her answer,
fucking
though.
time. Yes, okay, what was her line, Bria?
Is that well, first of all, he was like, are you gonna lie to me again? And then she's like, yes. And she's like, but that will be the last time. And then he asked her, and she's like, well, you are my family. Like, I don't know if they were playing at this, but her age. I know he mentioned prior, like, we can adopt. Like, I just want a family with you. That situation. And I don't know. Yeah, I just don't see that really working out. But while you were talking, I was thinking, I know he mentioned this movie can easily be one of those movies where it's like you said earlier, kind of pick a lane. I don't know. Yeah, and I said there's too much dip on the chip. But while you were talking, for me, I was thinking, oddly, the reason why this movie I'm able to look past that is that I think the through line through the story of this woman, like having this sort of midlife change of career and life and shooting for her dreams and goals and making the most of all that and learning to take the bumps as they come along. I think that is so powerful and inspirational that like the adoption storyline, the shitty boyfriend storyline, the like not super supportive friends but kind of supportive still storyline, if those things were more central, I think that this movie definitely could be like a backup plan where it's just like it's just too much adversity that I can't get over. Whereas this movie, I think she winds up pushing through a lot of that stuff. Like, we're breaking up with this dude that you're in love with and you didn't really want to break up with, but well, she got dumped, really. She didn't break up with him.
It wasn't amicable.
Yeah, so, having that happen and then, this lie, the weight of the lie, the weight of lying to your kid that you finally found, all that stuff could break her. She really, like, kind of just juggled and powered through and did this amazing thing despite all that and then came around and owned it all. Mm-hmm. And so, I mean, I definitely don't think you can make the movie any other way besides her, succeeding and all that stuff. Mm-hmm. If she failed, it'd be like, well, what was all this shit for? Like, why am I watching this? So it has to be aspirational in that part. But I think kind of like, not quite like Border Town and El Cantante and stuff, but the reason and the purpose of this movie to me, I think overshadowed some of the like very questionable parts, because as we're like talking about it and kind of breaking down these weird parts, I'm like, yeah, that is like really shitty, and I think if any of those things were the central part of this movie, it would be very questionably bad. Like, if this was if the focus was kind of her relationship and this is how her and Trey were together, that's a bad relationship. That's not great.
Yeah.
If it was focused on her friendship with Leah completely, like, that's a pretty good friendship, but at the same time, like, there's some like, okay, give me a break, like, you did this. And then if it was focused on her finding her adoptive daughter and stuff, it's like, well, you're a fucking liar for one, and you already gave her up. So I mean, talk about trauma and issues.
Oh yeah, there's like even then when she like decided to have her back in her life, like, they probably would benefit from some therapy.
Yes.
Not maybe together, but like to talk about it.
Yeah. So I think to me too, what spoke to me the most was the element of figuring out what she wanted in life and going after it and all that stuff, because that is something I'm trying to figure out in life. So to see that, really, I think for me, I had like success goggles on, like, oh man, this is inspirational. Like,
no, and I think that's why I liked it, because I did feel inspired. I did like the moments that Maya worked well with her team to really work on something, not for the sake of competition and for the sake of profit, but for the sake of really caring about the thing that you're creating and making and putting out into the world, which I think has a lot to do with just Maya's character in general. Being this more streetwise, people-oriented person versus book junkies, I don't know, who like have the experience down on paper and in terms of a degree, but aren't really good, who might have the knowledge of what it would take to run a business or a company or a team, and put out a product, but may not have the people skills to know how to create a product. I really liked that element of it. And what you were saying with all of the things that Maya was going through, she still juggled and handled things really well, that every time she was on screen, her character was glowing, like in each scene, that she had this kind of like personable, relatable, calm, nurturing, and caring character, but also very like sassy and streetwise. And there's this part where they're at the Christmas corporate party. Maya says, to hell with it, and she brings her Chase, played by Alan Eisenberg, who is kind of like the main scientist in her group. He's the guy that like puts all of the ingredients together for the product. And he's this like quirky guy who was kicked off of the main team that they're competing against because he was trying to speak out against the original line of organic products. And they're like, if you blab your mouth, we're going to fire you.
Talk about whistleblower
Totally.
like policy. He should have called the hotline.
He should have, and he should have been protected, but
Yeah.
instead, I mean, but then we wouldn't have got this like weird quirky guy
Yeah.
that plays with cats and cat foods.
But talking about Chase and Ariana, I think too that it's amazing too that Maya, again, you're talking about her being a people person and these elements of her really helping her in this job situation. But
It's
I
this
think
underdog story.
that, but I also think that it's important, like how much her being around has kind of bettered these people in a way. Like Ariana seems like she's kind of gotten some confidence. She tells Hildy off because Hildy's like, well, I'm going to join the other team. And then she's like, she closes the door and her face is like, good riddance. Like, fuck her. And then obviously Ariana and Chase start some kind of romance, kind of flirting thing going on. And then I would venture to say that she's even made an impact on Zoe. And she winds up going back to school and trying to pursue photography. Well, she does pursue photography. She finishes and comes back after she graduates. But yeah, you know, these things where it's like, unbeknownst to her, she's also helped inspire and help these other people be more confident in themselves while finding the confidence in herself really to do something that she thought maybe she couldn't do.
Yeah, I would agree with that. It's a good point. And I just to kind of put a finale on what we overall like our thoughts on this movie, I think we've already kind of hashed out what we would preferably want to change about it. And I know it sounds like I have shat on this movie, but I wouldn't necessarily change much. It would just be a preference to turn the volume up on certain aspects of the plot and turn the volume down on others, and to give a little bit more of like a clear direction. I think because second act, it says it's in the comedy genre, which I would agree with, but it's very watered down by these like Hallmark Channel elements to it to give it too much of an emotional pull. And so I was like, I think what felt off, like just something felt off to me while watching this movie. And I think it's the wants and needs of Maya's character. And it was just too overcomplicated. Her story felt too thickened with extra ingredients. Love life, starting a family, giving up a daughter for adoption, feeling not good enough for her job, having to prove herself with higher execs. Those are all normal things that I think people deal with, maybe with the exception of adoption. Like it's common and stuff, but I would say not feeling good enough in your job, having this imposter syndrome, especially for couples thinking about starting a family and what you want. And looking through the cast of Peter Segal's movies, they've all been male dominated, with the exception of 50 First Dates, which was Adam Sandler and Drew Barrymore. And then Get Smart was Steve Carell and Anne Hathaway. And I think that maybe it's because this is Steven Seagal's maybe perhaps one of his only movies that stars and centers around a female character, and it shows. And we've talked about that before on this show where like men writing in women's roles are a comedy on its own because it's like you missed the mark there, buddy. But I don't know. I was just trying to like, and maybe too because I'm not always a rom-com chick flick kind of person, and I'm like looking for a reason to hate this movie or like pick it apart, and instead I should just let movies movie and let this one just be for what it is, because in reality it's not a bad movie. I just felt like something felt off, that there were too, like, the things that could have been really funny just got too watered down.
Well, I raise you a director issue and I ask, is this really the director or is this the writers? Because this movie has two writers. You have
Yes. Mm-hmm.
with all these different elements. Romance, because J-Lo loves a rom-com. So it can't just be this career movie. It has to have all these different aspects. And maybe as a first-time writer, maybe that's too much to try to tackle in a movie. And
Yeah. Okay.
I say all that to say that in the past, we definitely have shitted on directors and writers a la Martin Brest with Gigli, because that was a dumpster fire of, again, his first film, his first writing credit. Great
Yes.
director, first time writing.
Yes.
Too much dip on the chip.
Too much dip on the chip.
And then it also made me think of Angel Eyes, which was written by someone. I remember we were like, this feels very TV movie-ish, which was written by...
And they did all TV movies.
Yes. So
Yeah.
I think that looking at the writers and their credits kind of helps, like, you know, put that in a different perspective. Like, maybe Elaine was trying to fulfill too much of what J-Lo wanted to do, like, in terms of this movie. And in a way, I think having J-Lo produce this movie, and even Boy Next Door, these are things she has a say in. So sometimes it's like, I don't know if I said this when we recorded, but I definitely think that her balancing everything is probably overwhelming. And for acting, to me, she really has kind of played it safe after the 90s, you know?
Yeah.
So I think that she's not taking roles really besides maybe Enough. And that's all I could really think of like really biting into something really heavy, you know? So I think that with that in mind, I think she wants to do pretty fun, fluffy type movies. And
Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with that. My issue that you're right. It's not always about directing. It takes a lot of ingredients to make a movie happen. The director's like the oven, right? That kind of powers everything together, that like bakes it all, and like, or it's the directions on the back of the cake box that tells you like how much oil and eggs you need. I don't know where I'm going with this dumb analogy, but like, but you have writers, you have producers, you have music, you have the actors, you have all these things that go into it. And so yeah, maybe it's not all Peter Segal. I just got kind of curious because I was like, I knew that name sounded familiar. And then when I saw the rap sheet of all of these like Tommy Boy, 50 First Dates, Longest Yard, Anger Management, like those are all like Get Smart. Those are slapstick comedy movies. And I was like, oh, why couldn't this have been a slapstick comedy? And then it got me thinking about like Bridesmaids and how Bridesmaids is a comedy, but too many people were trying to put it, oh, it's like a rom-com and it's like a chick flick. It's like, no, this movie was just funny. You know, I don't know. I wouldn't like put like, yeah, there were like elements of coupling and romance and stuff in it. Same with Ghostbusters. Like everyone wanted to say, "Oh, the female's Ghostbusters." Like it's just Ghostbusters, man. Like we get that you're a little baby back bitch product of the 80s and you want to be mad because women are like touching your childhood or whatever. Like get over it. So I don't know. That part just made me curious. But Jennifer Lopez, like you mentioned, Bria, is a multifaceted, multi-hyphenated kind of celebrity. And one thing we know that she's good at, and the hill that we're willing to die on, is that she is talented. She did a song for this movie. You want to talk about Limitless?
Yes, I do.
How is that segue? That was a good segue.
Yeah. Okay, well, I kind of already knew she made this song, obviously, but I don't think I heard it in its entirety. And then you, of course, hear it, I believe, in the end credits of the movie. And it's definitely a movie song, which I recently used to describe my dearest Beyonce's Be Alive. Because, you know, Be Alive, I think, is a great song. It's just, and like I'm segueing here with Limitless, so stick with me here. Be Alive is a great song. When I listened to it, I said the exact same thing. It's definitely a movie song. It is a song that fits perfectly at the end credits of a movie, in the trailers and all that stuff. Great. It does not stand alone from the movie for me. And so Limitless is kind of like that too. It's a great song. It's written by Sia. And it's very inspirational. You know, it sounds like a stadium song that would be awesome to hear at concerts, a la maybe the Super Bowl. And I think the video's pretty, I don't love the video, to be honest. I think it could have been more aligned with the movie a little bit. It's a little abstract. I do think it's cute that Emmy's in it playing like a younger Jennifer. And I also watched her performance on Ellen. I was really impressed because, of course, these days I like to look for the things that the haters might pick apart. And I thought J-Lo did a great job. I didn't see any signs of like lip syncing. I thought she sang live and that she sounded good. I do think it's very telling, especially post reading and talking about her book, that she, even with Marry Me, is doing these ballads, even for home too. She's doing these ballads for these movies where you would think someone who gets shit for her vocals so much and has previously maybe been told that, you know, she isn't that type of singer, that she's really stretching and pushing that button to turn these movie songs out like that. So I think that plays into this movie a bit because it's something she wasn't confident about before, maybe had a bit of imposter syndrome about before, and she's reckoned a lot with herself and self-reflected, and she's like, you know what? I'm gonna sing what I want to sing. And I have a voice, and it might not be like what people expect or want from me, but I'm gonna use it and I'm gonna do what I love to do. And so for that, I gave it props. I don't hate this song. Again, I think it's very inspirational. It's just not a song I'm reaching for outside of this movie.
Yes. Yeah, I agree. The song actually reminded me a lot of the song from Home. To the point where I had to take a double look to be like, they're not reusing this song, are they? But no, they like it was pretty clear. Yeah, Limitless was a fine song. It wasn't you know, the biggest but I felt like it made sense going in this movie versus My Love Don't Cost a Thing when at the end of Made in Manhattan, right?
Yes, I will never forgive for
Dun
that.
dun 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 dun.
And the fact that they put it in a TV spot for the movie.
Yeah.
Like, this song does not correspond to this movie. It's a rom-com. Yeah. Anyways.
Oh, wait, that's not Made in Manhattan. That's Wedding Planner.
Wedding Planner.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. It actually would make sense in Made in Manhattan, but not in Wedding Planner.
Kind
of.
But
anyways.
Yes. Okay. Anything else? I mean, I think too, we're tearing apart this movie, but again, like, there were some funny parts. And then I did put, Simone, that I felt like Leah slapping Maya was like you and me.
Who's a champ? Who's a champ?
Yes, I feel like you'd be slapping me.
Yes, I would be.
I thought her speaking Mandarin was hilarious.
Oh, yeah, that part was funny. Yeah, so basically on her fake resume, it says that she plays Mandarin, and then one of the, like, investors in their product, they're, like, flying him down from China to, like, tour their facilities or something, and they're needing him to, like, close on the deal before they have him sign this NDA, and they're like, oh, Maya, like, since you're the only person who can speak Mandarin, like, you should come to this dinner and help him out because his English is rusty. And so she's, like, wearing this earpiece, and she's talking to Joan's veterinarian. And so he's, like, translating really quickly what he's saying to her and, like, having her repeat it back. And I was actually pretty impressed. I mean, I've talked about this before. I lived in China for a year. That doesn't make me, like, super cultured or anything amazing like that. It was a wonderful experience that I'm glad I did. But I didn't learn Mandarin when I was there because I knew, A, I was only going to be there for a year. And B, it's a hard language because it's all about tones and inflections of your voice, and I was so scared about pronunciating something correctly that I was going to possibly offend someone. And then that's kind of what happens in this dialogue where the veterinarian is like saying he's doing a full cavity search of a dog at the same time that he's, like, talking to Maya through this earpiece, and it ends up the dialogue kind of, like, meshes together at some point because the guy looks over at Rob and he was like what's this guy's problem, like, he seems kind of like a douche, and Maya says, like, oh, his anal glands need to be milked, they're very full, and then he's like, that's funny, I like her. Like, that part was funny, that part was good. And I thought, like, her tones and inflections first, like, you can tell that she memorized those lines in Mandarin to, like, give it a try, and that she wasn't saying, like, fake Chinese sounding words to the point where it would be offensive. Like, those were actual Mandarin words that she was speaking.
Yeah. that was one of the highlights. Also, there's a line where I don't know when this is, but one of the ladies from the mom group, she's like, earmuffs, Jesus.
Oh, you're my homeboy, Jesus. Because it's Leah, it's Joan's birthday, and she was just like, we know who the real birthday star is, and she's like, earmuffs, Jesus, you're my homeboy.
Because her birthday's on Christmas, I think.
Yeah.
So I thought that was funny. And then last but not least, two things that probably wrap up how I feel about this movie. I noted that I didn't know if I should be inspired or upset by this movie. And then also that at the very end, I wrote, J-Lo is right. The only thing stopping me is me. And that's why I probably am giving this movie a lot of passes, because it kind of fucked me up in that sense of being like, damn, like, really? Yeah.
I think that kind of shows in Maya's character throughout the movie that she is a go-getter. Like, in her interview at Frank and Clark, she mentions, like, well, your skincare line, like, didn't sell well because you're marketing it as a hair growth product, but you put, like, shampoo as a replacement. That's not hair growth or whatever.
Yeah.
She kind of, like, sees them out, or, like, you mentioned this as organic, and there's, like, a whole list of chemicals on the back, like, that's not organic. And so she is willing to speak her mind, but she's also a character that, like, takes in a lot of consideration of others and herself, and kind of sees, like, what am I doing here? Like, this is really, it's difficult to run a job that she has, like, the street training for, or, like, the people training for, but not all of it comes naturally to her, and she doesn't really like do a lot of like here's one thing. Here's kind of my last final closing comments. I would have been perfectly fine with the suspension of disbelief in this movie had there been a montage where Maya and Dilly sit together, and Dilly like coaches her on her new character of like, you're this person, you graduated from this school, like here are your special talents, because everyone's like, oh, we're inviting you to this dinner because like we need someone who speaks Mandarin, and she's just like,
oh, right.
and that's me. Right. Like, you know, it's like, oh my God, at least brush up on your character. Like, you're going to out yourself at this point.
Yeah.
Because
even the rowing thing.
She's
like,
like,
a yacht club.
oh,
Why?
yeah. Okay.
Oh, yes. Right. At Harvard. Okay.
Yeah. So, like, if she had sat down and, like, put work into the background story of her character and then get so lost in it now, that's why Joan's mad at her, or like her friends miss her, because she gets like so wrapped up in this fake persona. Maya never really changes. Like, she's still herself. She just wears more. She's just busier now. Yes. And so I felt like she never really truly lost herself in that sense. Yeah. That's my final closing comment on this. Bria, I had a hard time thinking about snacks and cocktails for this movie. Normally that stuff, I know, I figured, but I feel like
I never understand the assignment.
I'm sorry, I didn't know we had an assignment. But usually they come very naturally to me, because as I will be the one to edit this episode, and I'm curious to know if you can hear me eating. I ate a whole damn bowl of popcorn while we were recording this episode.
Oh, you finished it. I am impressed.
Food is always on my radar. And so while I was watching this, I was like, I can't think of a damn thing. Like, there's not like a significant food. Like, there's a sandwich shop that Maya takes Zoe to, and she's like, this is where I like said goodbye. This is where I hugged you for the last time, whatever. But even then, it was like a nondescript kind of sub deli place. Her
and Trey went to that Italian restaurant where he dumped
her. So that was just more like, I don't know. I did say a cocktail for this movie, and it was inspired by when they go to the yacht club and they do a little competitive rowing, and Annalie Ashford's character named Hildy, who's the blonde, like, other assistant to Maya's character, who looks kind of like Kellyanne Conway.
Oh. Oof. I'm sure.
Oof. I'm sorry. No offense to that actress, but that's, like, what she was picking up. Like, that's the vibes that I was getting from her. She's not rowing, and she's watching them row, and she's just drinking this Cosmo with, like, martini. A martini, and she's like, you made me drop my olive. And then when they were coming up with their elusive ingredients to put in their product, one of the things was tangerine. That tangerine was going to provide you this like all-in-one product with like vitamin C, with the anti-aging and the plumpness of firming of the skin, whatever. So long story short, I was like, maybe like a tangerine cosmopolitan or like a tangerine martini or something served in that like cute kind of, because when I think of a fancy corporate drink, when I think of like someone who lives in a Manhattan high-rise apartment, that they're not opening up a can of beer or a bottle of beer like J-Lo is, which is very cute and casual, and her and Leah have a drink. Or like they also are very comfortable like pouring like big glasses of wine, like a mom's club thing. But when I think of corporate America, I think of fancy cocktails with bitters and herbs and Aperol spritzes kind of thing.
Very, what do you call those people? Those like fancy ass bartenders who like craft cocktail. Like
Yes.
I like that idea. I actually have an idea now that I've listened to you, which usually happens. I'm going to see your tangerine martini, and I'm going to go for the busy working woman always juggling life and work, an espresso martini.
Ooh.
Get a little caffeine in there. And then I'm going to go with, like in the opening scene, I'm going to go with a bacon, egg, and cheese from your local bodega.
Oh, okay. Good
on the
answer.
Run type thing.
Yeah. A quick on the go breakfast.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure J-Lo would probably eat like a granola bar or yogurt or something healthier, but I'm gonna go with the sandwich. So
You got to do what's you got to pair what's best with the movie. I like your
Exactly.
choice. Good choice, Bria.
Also, I just want to kind of correct us. We did stars instead of pumps of butter. And
We did. I think I thought about that. I was like, did I say stars instead of pumps of butter?
yes,
My
and I did
bad.
too. And we totally didn't even think twice about it. But just, if you've gotten this far, just think earlier. That's what we meant.
Yeah, we meant a 1, 2, 3, a pumping
And a
up and
three and a
down,
half.
and a 1, 2, 3, huh, on our popcorn.
And I'm buying candy for this movie.
Yeah, I'm gonna need something sweet as well. I'm gonna need a combo of sweet and salty for this.
Yes, yes.
Maybe some like sweet tarts.
I love Sour Punch Kids at the movies.
Mm-hmm.
They're sour and then they're sweet. All right. Thank you for listening to this week's episode. And to the people who've stuck with us so far, please come back for another episode of the Value Save version of Inside the Actor Studio.
Oh my, look at that cute little tie-in to the movie. And seriously though, if you do like us enough to stick around, take another deep dive down this IMDb rabbit hole with us as we discuss, if you're ready for this, y'all, we are wrapping up our season on Jennifer Lopez, and we are going to be discussing our final Jennifer Lopez movie, Hustlers. But don't be discouraged, listeners, because this is not our final episode of the season. We are going to be splitting Hustlers into 2 special episodes, similarly to what we did with Selena, and we'll be wrapping up our first season with a few not so many episodes and last-minute pop culture add-ons.
Yes. Oh my God. I'm not ready, Simone. But on that note, if you've got nothing better to do, why don't you go figure out a theme to watch a bunch of movies you've never seen?
I'm your host, Simone. Please subscribe to this blessed mess and leave us a like, or give, how many pumps of butter would you give our podcast right now? Let us know.
I would love to know. Is it a measly like spritz of I can't believe
Oh,
it's not
please
butter?
don't. Yeah. Actually, if that's it, I don't want to know.
Keep your spritz to yourself. I'm your host, Bria, and it would be awesome for you to wipe off those buttery popcorn fingers after you tell us how many pumps you'd give us, and give us a review. Follow us at Roll Call Pod on Instagram, TikTok, and my favorite Twitter. Also, this might be a dangerous rabbit hole to open up, but
Uh-oh.
we might have some listeners who aren't on the socials, who aren't tapped into, social media. If you want, email us. Email us at loyaloats, that is LOYALOATS, @gmail.com. It's also in our description now. But, for you old fogies who don't want to tweet and twat at us, then shoot us an email. And on that note, this has been another episode of
Roll call and cut. Tweeting and twatting.
Oh, I couldn't help myself.
That was good.